Welcome to hooftec-online. In this how-to video we'll be looking at the initial application setup. After registering, you will be directed to the General Settings page, seen here. The page is divided into sections. Let's begin with localization. Select your preferred language. There are several options to choose from, and selecting a language immediately changes the interface. This option will affect labels and hints throughout the app. Next we can choose our preferred time zone. Again, there are several options, so be sure to select the one that matches your location. I'll set Greenwich Mean Time as I'm in the UK. Next is the currency selection. This is a crucial setting, since it will control the display of prices in the app, both for your costs and the charge you pass on to your customers. Although it's possible, we recommend you do not change this once you begin creating invoices. The tax rate can be set freely, rather than to a fixed value. You will need to configure this setting based on your business's tax liability. Again, we do not recommend changing this after initial setup of the app. My business is subject to 20% VAT in the UK. The date format reflects on invoices, reports, and PDFs produced from trim and scoring records. It's worth considering any printed materials you will produce from the app when setting this option. Next is the appearance. You have the option of choosing between light and dark modes, with a setting to track your device's setting. Some devices support switching between light and dark modes depending on lighting conditions or time of day. Choose the appropriate setting that works best for you. The invoice number format setting offers a few preferences. Whichever one you choose, invoices will auto-increment from the first invoice you create at a rate of 1 on each iteration. For example, if you create your first invoice with the integer part set at 1000, the next invoice the system will generate will be 1001, and then 1002, 1003, and so on. Choose this wisely, as you cannot change the increment later without having to set each invoice manually on creation. The trim screen preferences allow you to set the trim screen in a way that you want to work. It's worth configuring these options since you will probably spend the most time in the trim screen. Beginning with trim screen orientation, this will depend on whether you have an upright shoot or a rollover shoot. Select the direction that matches your shoot layout. The starting foot is also a matter of preference. Set that here with the starting hoof option. The animal ID input sets whether to use the device's inbuilt keyboard or the on-screen numpad provided in the app. Choose your preference here. Here we can see the trim screen using the numpad option. And here is the text input field, which uses the on-screen keyboard to enter animal numbers. The trim screen layout setting sets the initial view of the trim screen when you first begin a new trim job. You can choose between a grid or list view. The grid view displays the feet in your preferred order and starting with the initial hoof you selected above. You tap on each foot to record lesions and treatments for that foot. This option allows more room on screen for the display of lesions, and the tap targets are more comfortable to use when working in gloves. The alternate setting is the list view. In list view, all the feet are visible at once, again, in order of your preference and starting with the foot you selected above. In list view, the tap targets are smaller and work better when using a stylus or larger device. You can toggle between the views at any time by tapping the toggle on-screen next to the on-screen clock. Remember that this setting defines the initial layout only. The recheck options are toggleable settings that display on the recheck button as you tap it repeatedly. Deselecting them here will remove them from the options that appear as you cycle through the recheck button by tapping it. This is to set the options you want, and remove the ones you are unlikely to ever use. The trimmer recommendations are displayed at the end of PDF reports generated in the app. These settings allow you to define your own recommendations on the removal of treatments or wraps applied during the trim operation. The scoring screen preference determines the layout of the scoring screen. This screen needs to capture a lot of information in an accessible way for scoring efficiency, since scoring is done at a rapid pace. This preference determines the optimum layout for scoring. Unlike the trim screen, this is not toggleable from the scoring screen to prevent accidental triggering of the option. Finally, app notifications can be disabled using this final setting. We highly recommend you don't disable notifications, since we send out crucial information on occasion using notifications, including security updates, crucial patches, and other useful information. And of course, don't forget to save all these settings before you leave. That's it for this video. Thanks for following along.